Walk into the center of any modern metropolis, and you enter an arena of signs. The walls are choked with overlapping, brightly colored imagery, each frame aggressively demanding a fraction of your attention. Cultural critic Susan Sontag identifies the poster as a psychological technology, one that redefined what it means to be part of the public. To understand how this shift occurred, we have to look at the historical baseline of urban communication, the pre-modern public notice. For centuries, municipalities communicated through dense blocks of text. These notices circulated news, taxation rules, and royal decrees, assuming the reader was an alert citizen actively seeking out information. The physical medium itself was entirely passive. To consume the information, a citizen had to physically walk up to the wall, halt their momentum, and present themselves before the text to read what was written. The public notice assumes a public of citizens who need to be informed. The modern poster assumes a public of spectators waiting to be seduced. The invention of the printing press alone did not create the poster. Printed notices and books circulated for hundreds of years without turning city walls into visual battlegrounds. The exact technological catalyst arrived in the 19th century: high-speed color lithography. This method uses flat stones to transfer ink, allowing for rapid printing. For the first time, printers could mass-produce large-scale, visually dominant color images cheaply and efficiently. But the technology still required a financial engine to deploy it at scale. That engine was the rise of modern industrial capitalism. An industrialized economy relies on ever-increasing mass consumption. Manufacturers needed a reliable method to stimulate demand for non-essential goods, items people did not strictly need for survival. This economic imperative weaponized public space. The blank facades of modern cities were quickly converted into competitive theaters of commercial persuasion. Capitalism engineered the poster to stimulate private appetites, converting the urban environment into a consumerist engine. Because of their visual impact, posters are frequently mischaracterized as an original, avant-garde art form. Sontag identifies the poster as a plagiarist medium, relying on a process she calls aesthetic parasitism. The medium functions as a one-way stylistic pipeline. Complex, elite fine art movements are filtered down, digested, and translated into simplified visual metaphors for mass consumption. Even when highly respected fine artists created posters, they were adapting their already mature styles to serve commercial clients. Famous figures from the fine art world, like Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec, were commissioned specifically to lend their prestige to mass advertising. To sell these products, the commercial poster relies on a specific visual mechanism, attaching the commodity to the emblematic image of an attractive, theatrical person. This imagery performs a quiet psychological trick. It covertly links material acquisitiveness with sexual appetite or the allure of celebrity. The commercial poster is a stylistically derivative tool designed solely to cultivate temptation. It asks the viewer to indulge their private, selfish desires. In 1914, the poster's target output shifted abruptly. Instead of selling consumer goods, the medium began selling warfare. The modern centralized nation-state realized that the exact same lithographic techniques used for advertising soap and cabaret shows could achieve mass military mobilization. The archetypal example is the British recruitment poster, which weaponized visual aggression to serve state goals. The commercial tactic of claiming a pedestrian's attention from a distance is now pointed directly at the viewer's conscience, stripping away their anonymity in the crowd. Notice the difference between the illustration and the real human subject. The static photographic reality of Lord Kitchener lacks the drawing's artificially amplified psychological pressure. This provides a diagnostic rule for analyzing public spaces. A density of commercial posters indicates a society maintaining a stable economic status quo. A flood of political posters indicates a society in a state of emergency.
This visual machinery of crisis isn't exclusively controlled by established states. It's equally utilized by revolutionary movements. Whether backed by the state or rebelling against it, insurgent posters use the exact same visual language of ideological mobilization, simplifying complex politics into stark iconography. The political poster translates the technology of appetite into an engine of obligation, demanding the renunciation of the private liberties that commercial posters celebrate. The two formats rely on opposite visual archetypes. The commercial poster relies on the pretty girl. The political poster relies on the heroic figure or the martyred victim. This relies heavily on the concept of the agon, the depiction of absolute binary struggle as the central visual tableau of political propaganda. The agon functions by juxtaposing a flawless, exemplary hero against a heavily dehumanized or caricatured enemy. This imagery deliberately bypasses complex intellectual arguments. It is engineered to directly stimulate crude, powerful emotions like vindictiveness, resentment, or moral complacency. During times of crisis, this visual simplification reaches a dark conclusion. As Sontag observed during the escalations in Southeast Asia in 1970, these posters have the capacity to incite intense racial or nationalistic hatred. The political poster's efficiency is its primary danger. It strips away political nuance, replacing rational discourse with immediate, emotionally charged visual ultimatums. This leads to a central paradox. What happens to the poster medium in a society that explicitly outlaws consumerism? The primary case study is post-1959 revolutionary Cuba. This was a nation that eradicated capitalist markets and the selection among competing goods. The logical problem is straightforward. Without products to sell, and without an industrialized capitalist economy to financially sustain graphic designers, the poster as a medium should theoretically go extinct. Yet the historical record shows an anomaly. Instead of dying out, revolutionary Cuba produced some of the most vibrant, high-quality, and prolific poster art in the world. The function of the Cuban poster was completely redefined. It was tasked not with stimulating private appetites, but with decorating shared ideas and raising public consciousness. This aesthetic approach separated Cuba from other communist states. The artists explicitly rejected the drab, heavy-handed literalism of Soviet socialist realism. Cuba proved that the poster medium could be successfully decoupled from its capitalist DNA, surviving entirely as a state-sponsored tool for ethical and ideological education. The specific aesthetic quality defining the Cuban poster is its extreme, unapologetic stylistic eclecticism. Cuban artists freely mixed international styles, pop art, Art Nouveau, and psychedelia. They continued the tradition of aesthetic parasitism, but deployed it for non-commercial, revolutionary ends. The poster took on a unique role in advertising Cuban culture. It promoted films, galleries, and events not as commodities to be purchased, but as vital occasions for public artistic experience. Freed from the clutter of commercial billboards, the Cuban poster functioned as an independent element of public decor, transforming the urban environment into a massive outdoor gallery. This public decor operated on an immense physical scale. Revolutionary imagery literally defined the architecture of entire city squares. In this specific historical anomaly, the poster transcended both capitalist utility and crude propaganda, achieving the monumental status of public architecture. Sontag's comparison reveals how the visual medium defines its relationship with the public. Capitalist posters view the public as an appetite to be milked. The nation-state wartime poster views the public as a resource to be mobilized and commanded. The Cuban revolutionary poster attempts to view the public as a consciousness to be elevated. These posters are a visible index of a society's foundational values, reflecting exactly how it views the worth of its own citizens.